Hello there, DC Gamer. So, we have another new heroic race. This will be my third ever heroic race, and this time we have the High Treasure Dragon, which does have some pretty interesting elements, that happy and time element in particular. And plus, he just looks like kind of a cool dragon, to be honest. He's probably my favorite heroic that I've seen in a while. So, we definitely want to get our hands on this dragon, and whether you're a new player or an older player, it is 100% possible to get this dragon free to play, honestly, without that much difficulty. You might need a few gems saved up depending on your current player situation, which I'll go into in a moment. But in order to get your hands on this heroic, all that you need to do is get to lap 15. As long as you get to lap 15, you can get your hands on this dragon. So you don't need to come first, second, or whatever. You just need to get to lap 15. Of course, if you come first, you're also going to get your hands on the other dragons in the event, such as the Explorer, Spartan, and Arid Ambassador dragons. But if your main goal is the heroic, then your main thing would just be to get to that lap 15. And honestly, free to play, spending no money, and just using natural gems that you've got, it's definitely doable. So today I'm going to go through each of the different tests that you'll be able to complete and how you can complete them. And I'm also this time going to go through the difference between, say, what you should be breeding if you have infinite time skips, 12-hour time skips like I do, or if you're one of the unfortunate players that does not have the infinite 12-hour time skips, because that is a big part of this event along with a few things. But for example, on this current lap, I am on lap 4 node 1 as this is day 1, and for this we have to get items by collecting food. And this is one of the more annoying quests in this entire event, to be completely honest. Not because it's difficult per se, but just because it can take forever. And in particular, one thing that I screwed up is if you ever play this game on both PC and mobile, which I do, sometimes you may forget that you've planted different food on mobile to PC and then you just click replant and then suddenly all of your farms are filled. Don't do that. Don't be like me, because now I've ended up with only 3 different farming slots. What you would do for this particular quest would be, you would have, I'd recommend probably at least half of your farms just for the sake of making it easier, and you would plant the shortest food timed food in the game, which is that 30-second bluebell bouquet. And the reason you do that is because it doesn't take up the space in your farms. So then if you do an oopsie, or you're just out of spots in general, food to collect, then you can come back and keep replanting, recollecting over and over and over again. And that is how you can get this particular quest done. One other thing to be really mindful of when you're doing this during this event is the fact that some of the tasks that you do, there is no cooldown on the pool, and for example, there is no cooldown on this current food pool. However, some of them, in fact, most of the later ones, there will be a cooldown on the items that you can collect. And this resource here, the Deetlist website, has the quests for every single lap in this event. Highly recommend that you always have this open while you're playing the event. And so, for instance, we could see what to expect on lap 3, we can see what we've got on lap 4, all the way up to the final laps, and we'll also go through lap 14 in a minute, just as an example of how different things get. But on lap 4, for example, we are on this node, which is the collect food node, and we can see that there are 21 items to collect, and there is a pool of 21, which means that there is no wait time. All that we're really waiting for is the items to actually drop out of these farms, which you'll see I got one there, but we'll have to keep regrowing until we get the final one. I could also just finish this node straight away for 1 gem, which, honestly, just because I get annoyed every so often, I might do it for a singular gem. But you shouldn't be wasting them, because there are specific quests in this event that you might need to waste your gems on. And it might actually be a good idea just to skip some time. But that is the first quest. Again, For this food quest, it is the shortest food. I'd say save at least half of your farms and just keep planting and planting and planting. The other farms, however, you could do all of your farms with these bluebell bouquets. However, I think if you want to keep your food production going during the event, and you also might want to be able to instantly collect some food from the other ones by putting in longer timers, so I'd say put in whatever you want in like at least half, and then the other half minimum, you should probably save it for those bluebells. But the other quests that we've got can be kind of tricky, and some of the others are super easy. For example, after we've collected this item, we're going to move on to lap 4 node 2. And in this one, we're going to have the Feed Dragons quest, which is, I would say, the easiest quest of this event, because you literally just need to get, say, a new Terror Dragon and feed it up. It's super simple, you don't need any other guidance apart from that. The other quest that we're going to get on lap 4 node 2, however, is Battle Dragons. And now, these can be the most time-consuming quests to do, and in fact I believe they are for the entire event, because it says that the wait time is instant. However, that's not completely true, because between each battle you might have to wait 15 minutes up to 30 minutes, and you'll have to be waiting a long time between some of the fights. And that's why for this one the minimum time is at least 60 minutes, because that should be wait 15 minutes, wait 15, 15, 15. And so those quests in particular are the ones that you might want to consider skipping with your gems, because just think, if you could skip a battle tier for like 5 gems, or you have to wait an hour, maybe even a few hours, you're much better off skipping the final battle in those tiers. Because the final battle, if you're just skipping the final battle in the Battles Dragons quest, that is the cheapest way to gem and get through this event quicker. The others, generally, I'd recommend doing them and waiting, say, the 15 minutes or however long it might be for that fight. But the final fight, it's honestly worth it to gem if you've got the gems spare for this event. So that is the Battle Dragons quest, and the reason that this becomes so important is because on the later tiers, such as lap 14, you'll be waiting 20 hours for that Battle Dragons quest if you don't skip it. So again, it can take a very long time to get this quest done, and that's why generally it's a good idea to skip the final fight, because you don't want to be waiting 20 hours on a single node. You're never going to finish the event off, or at least you're not going to get to lap 15 if you wait out for all of those and you're not logging in immediately when the tier is ready. So that would be definitely one of the major things to take note of in this event. The other thing about the battles quests when they do come up is that you will have the option of spinning this booster spin, and I would save these booster spins almost exclusively for league battles and those general battles to try and skip them. I wouldn't use them on any of the food or any of the other quests, because you can do those quite easily, but in particular the battles quests, I would save your special bingo wheel for that, but you might not get what you want out of the booster spin, so you have to be aware of that. And sometimes you might get a full node skip when you're on the final item, but you're better off not wasting it, to be honest. Be very mindful of that during this event. So I did mention it, the other one that we've got is League Battles. This is one that could either be super duper easy for you, or incredibly difficult. Now, this one requires 4 league battles, which means that you can't do it in one reset of league battles without gemming, because, of course, if we go into the league section here, we get 3 combat bars, and if you fail a fight, you're going to use one of your combat bars. So you'd need to be able to consistently do 3 fights in a row, and then gem, because it's, 5 gems to refresh your energy, and then do some more fights to get that event item. The problem is, not everyone is in a position where they consistently beat their opponents in the arena. Not the arena, the league. So, for example, I've got my team here, which is level 51, 45, and 40, and most of the players that I go against are going to have 40s at this level range. So, for me, I'm almost guaranteed that I'm going to be able to do every single fight without a problem. However, during my first heroic race, that was not the case at all. I guess the only real advice that I can give in terms of the leagues and the sort of dragons that you could get, it would first of all be not trying to overlevel so that then you don't go against super hard opponents. And then also if you can get your hands on Morpheus, he's super easy to get through the clan events if you've got anyone with infinite time skips. And plus during the summoning happy hours you can get really good dragons like Prideful Vampire, Hexed Vampire, and I would highly recommend getting some of those and getting them up to legendary or the purple, and then that way you can have a much easier time. But aside from that, you just need to get a good team together, to be honest. So I hope that you are ready for that. If not, I struggled a lot in my first heroic race as well, and I ended up having to use most of my gems on the league battle skips. So it depends on where you're at in the game, to be honest. And so I did come back and do this one, like I said, so we can go and feed our dragons and do this fight, like I said. We've got this super simple fight that we can do, and these fights here, you can also use these to try and upgrade your dragons as well, so keep that in mind. Try and use one of your lower level dragons that you want to upgrade, and then, you know, that'll help you towards your end goal. Wait 15 minutes, come back, and we might skip the last fight. But overall, you know, very simple to do the quests so far for the most part. Like, none of them are particularly, I guess, thought-provoking quests or anything like that. You just have to be very mindful of the amount of items per pool, and again, how to best use your gems for particular quests. So, we've gone through quite a few of these now. The next one that we've got that appears on this listing, which we'll face in lap 4 node 4, is collect gold. This one can also be quite the pain, unless you employ a particular tactic for this one. And so, I've said it before, that it's actually faster for regular habitats to just wait until the gold symbol is on the front of the habitat and collect the gold then, because then you'll have a higher chance of getting the item. Because every time you collect from a habitat or you collect for the food quest, you have a very small chance of the item being given to you. However, the fuller the habitat is, the longer the time on the food is, for example, the higher your chances of getting the event item for that node. But for the gold quest in particular, a really good strat that works for pretty much anyone is to get a bunch of level 1 terra habitats, pop those down on your first island or your most easily accessible island to do this, and then fill them with dragons. So I'd say put in a couple of dragons in there, level them up to like 20. And then if you do that, you'll see that the terra habitat will fill up. And if you wait until that level 1 terra habitat gets to its max gold of 500, which honestly doesn't take very long at all, then you are very likely to get an item. So that is the best thing that you could do. For example, you can see I've got 3 of them on this island here. Realistically, I would just have an entire island full of level 1 terra habitats if I was being super optimal. We don't really have the space for that though, like, there's no room. So I just try and make do with what I can for my island. So just try and get down as many of these terra level 1 habitats as you can. Fill them up. If you don't have any other dragons, just fill them with terra dragons. You can get those super easily out of the shop. And again, pop them in, and then when it gets full, so maybe wait until you see the gold symbol for a few more seconds and then click, because sometimes it'll come up before it's at full and then you won't get the item as often. But when it is full, click, and then you should be able to get your hands on an item. So you just keep waiting, click until they're at 500, and that should make that quest honestly quite easy compared to some of the other ones. So that is the collecting food quest. If we move on to the other page, one of the other quests that we have is breeding dragons. This one can be a doozy, especially on level 14. You'll see that we've got 14 items that we need to collect with a pool of 7, so that would be a wait time of 1 hour and 12 minutes per item, which means that it takes a minimum of 8 hours and 24 minutes to do that node. That is an absolute minimum, unless you're skipping, of course. But the question is, what do you actually breed to get these quests done? And now, there is a very big difference between what you should do depending on what you have available to you as a player. In my case, I have endless 12-hour skips, which means that I have a massive advantage over permanent 12-hour skip players. And because of this, it means that I am more willing to go for longer breeding time combinations, because then I know that I can skip them and guarantee myself an item. However, if you are a regular player and you don't have that option, I will go through that first because that's going to be more players than not. The best thing that you can breed to not fill up your breeding dens and not fill up your hatchery is going to be Terra plus Terra. You don't want to use the empowered Terras because you do not want to breed any high timer dragons. So essentially, get yourself a bunch of Terra dragons, maybe a couple that are empowered, a couple that aren't. So we're going to search for my other Terra dragon. So you'll get 2 Terra dragons, and then the possible results for 2 non-empowered Terra dragons is just a Terra dragon. And so you can breed these 2 together. It's going to be a 15-second long breeding time, and then you can pop that into your hatchery. But the thing to be aware of, just like with the food collecting task, is that the shorter timers are less likely to give you an item. So you might have to rebreed these 2 Terra dragons 50, 100, 300 times. It's not difficult, it's just incredibly tedious. And to be honest, if you're doing it this way, which is the good old-fashioned way, sometimes it can take like upwards of an hour on the later nodes to actually get this done. By that I mean like when you're on lap 14 and you need to do this 7 times, it can take a while. So this is one of those where, again, you need to be aware that it will be very, very repetitive, but doing it in this way means that you're never filling up your breeding den or hatchery, so it comes with other benefits at the expense, unfortunately, of your poor hands. If you have 2 monitors, like me, you are going to be in a massively advantageous position, because then you can just do the breeding for this game on one monitor and do whatever the heck you want on the other one. If you're doing it all on mobile, I feel for you. I really do. So that would be my recommendation for anyone that doesn't have permanent 12-hour time skips. If you do have permanent 12-hour time skips, there are also a couple of nuances to this as well. One of the possibilities that you can do is if you have upgraded your breeding den, so you've upgraded it for the reduced breeding time, then what you can breed together would actually be a flame. And, sorry, it takes a moment in this game to search through all the dragons apparently. Let's assume my non-empowered flame dragon is here, but we take flame and Terra. Terras are used for like everything in this event, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. So assume that we're not hitting that first egg there. Without that epic being available, which it wouldn't be without the empowered dragon, there are 3 dragons that we could potentially breed. We've got the really short timered flaming rock dragon, which basically acts like a Terra breed. Then we've got Volcano, which has a slightly longer breeding time, but you can skip it with the ad skips, and it's not always guaranteed to give you an item, but it can give you an item. The other dragon that we've got is Aztec. And this dragon, for example, has, I believe it's a 12-hour, 46-minute breeding time, but it has like a 2-minute hatching time. So between each of these, if you happen to breed the Aztec dragon, which is the longest breeding time, at most you would be waiting an hour and it would guarantee you an item when you pop it in your breeding den. So you'd be waiting an hour between. That is one of the possibilities, but don't forget that we've got 3 breeding dens in this game. So the other breeds that I will do in other breeding dens, the first one, which is honestly my go-to, would be Flame plus C. Now, the reason for this is because it's quite unlikely that you're going to get the longer breeding time dragon in the form of power. He's a very rare, and honestly, you don't breed him all that often. The most common dragons that you're going to get are going to be Blizzard, which is a super short breeding time of like an hour or like a couple of hours, and then Cloud, which has, I believe it's about a 6-hour breeding time. This dragon here, Cloud, is the easiest way to get your breeding quests done, either through this event or for the other events. If you happen to breed Cloud, which it comes up very, very often when you do this breed, you can basically just time skip, there you go, guaranteed item every time. It's great. I absolutely love getting this. And again, it's unlikely that you're going to get your hands on power, and obviously you would not be using empowered dragons when you're doing this, so no chance of getting melted. So this one with these 3 available dragons is really good, but you have to be aware, don't use this combo if it's your only available breeding den, because just in the off chance you do breed power, it will lock up your breeding den. So I only use this combo and say a couple of others if you have more than one breeding den available. And another combination that I would use if I have some hatchery slots available, which is it's basically another one of my go-tos here. It's actually War plus War. Now, the reason why we breed War plus War together with infinite time skips, it's also not as perfect as it could be, but the only 2 possible outcomes for this would be War, which is a timer that you can skip with infinite 12-hour time skips, and then we have Thaw, which is one that has a 12-hour breeding time, which means again you can always skip it with the time skips. The problem with it having a 12-hour breeding time is that it will clog up your hatchery. So if you get lots of Thaw dragons, which honestly they come out quite often, then you will end up filling up your hatchery, and you need your hatchery available to finish off the breeding quest as well. So if you are going to use War plus War, which I love this combo, you have to have at least 2 hatchery slots available. So essentially, if you've only got 1 breeding den available, you can go with War plus War with infinite skips. If not, Terra plus Terra. If you've got more than 1 hatchery slot together available, then you can use War plus War. If you've only got 1 slot available, then Terra plus Terra is going to be your only good option. So the breeding part, I would say, is the most complicated part of this event, just because there's a lot of different combos you could use, and there are a few others that people tend to use at times, but the main ones I would use would be Flame plus C, War plus War, Terra plus Terra, and then that Flame plus Terra combo as well if you have the upgraded breeding den as well. So that's like 4 different combos you can use for that breeding task. But the Terra plus Terra, it's very annoying, but it means that you never have to have 3 slots, really, apart from a single one. So keep all of that in mind for that breeding task. In general, you'll notice a massive difference between how annoying things get from like lap 5 to lap 10. Things start to get particularly annoying. And the other quest that we've got, which is very similar to that breeding task, and lots of people end up doing them at the same time, is the hatching eggs quest. This one, if you have infinite time skips, is one of the easiest ones in the game, apart from the fact that you have to watch ads. Because if you do have infinite time skips for the hatching eggs quest, then what you can do is you can get an egg, go to gold, and you can just buy war dragon eggs over and over and over again. And you can skip them. It's great. Oh, it's a 7-hour, not 8-hour. I think I said 8-hour before. 7-hour breeding time, hatching time on war dragons. But this is great for anyone with infinite time skips. If you do not have infinite time skips like us privileged folks that do, your other option, once again, is going to be Terra plus Terra. And it would be in the same way how instead of buying a war dragon egg, you just keep buying Terra eggs over and over again for gold. You don't have to spend any gems, it's just you need to have enough gold available to pop them in and then actually get them hatched. So the hatching quest, I would say, is much simpler than the breeding task, but it's kind of similar in the way that I would approach it. But I love war dragon eggs. Oh, I love war dragon eggs so much when it comes to these sorts of events, genuinely. If you ever have infinite time skips like me, you'll love them too. But I believe that that is all of the different tasks that we could do in this event. There aren't any other special tasks. It's mainly all the same thing. Food, feeding, league battles, collecting gold, regular battles, collecting food, breeding. Like, this is basically it. This is the event, and it will repeat for every single heroic race that you do. There's no other really, I guess, big brain plays that you can make apart from what I've already gone through. But again, with the league battles and the battles in particular, that's when I would use my gems and my bingo skip. Outside of that, you just have to hope that if you want all of the dragons guaranteed and maybe you can't log in very often, your only real hope is that you get an inactive heroic race leaderboard, which you can see mine is not. We have quite a few active players in this one, and so because of that, that is why I always try and aim for lap 15 as a minimum. This time we also have a damage perk chest at 16, which I think a lot of people are going to want to get their hands on, to be honest, so you might see quite a lot of people getting to 16. Aside from that, there are also great rewards at 18 and 19, but most players don't make it to that, even the ones that, you know, have been logging in a lot and using some of their gems. But it depends on how many gems you are willing to invest into this event. If you have, say, you can do all the quests, you're willing to put in the time and the effort, and you've got like 300 gems like me, I could see lap 19 definitely being doable. But again, it depends on the things that you need to gem, and if you accidentally end up screwing up your farms like I did, because again, moving between PC and mobile, I forget sometimes, and I think that I'm going to be planting some 30-second food, and instead I put in an 8-hour. Oh no, don't do that. But those are the general rules with this event. The other things I would say is don't fill up your breeding dens. Don't fill up your hatcheries with random super long timers. Like at the moment, I've got a 34-hour timer, and I've got another 26-hour timer, and I've also got a heroic that I need to pop in there. So I'm waiting on popping the heroic in because I want to have at least, say, 3 to 4 slots available at all times. I would say 4 is what I would like to have available at all times to do this event. But it depends on what you want to do it and what you're willing to do as a player. You don't have to have all of the hatchery slots, but it does help a lot. You don't have to have all of the breeding dens available, but it does help a lot. And if you want to do multiple short breeds, then you can go for it with the ancient world as well, but I don't know if they actually count or not in the breeding. I think it's only the hatching. But there are a few different little things you can do, but the core gameplay and the core way of dealing with the tasks is basically what I went through before. So, aside from that, there isn't really much else that I can give you apart from good luck on that leaderboard, and I've done all of the previous heroic races before, completely free to play. This is the reason why you save up your gems. It's mainly for this event in case you need them for specific tasks. Maybe you don't, but just having the gems available to skip some of those long battle timers, definitely worth it. But anyway, this is my very long and I guess complicated explanation of all of these. I hope that it helps because over time I'm becoming more, you know, I guess consistent and also learning different strategies that have worked out better for me and just make things easier over time. And so that's just how it is. Each of us all have different ways that we prefer tackling things, particular breeds that we like doing, for example, particular dragons that we might want to use. But there are certain things that you can do, like Terra plus Terras, that will just make your life a lot easier if you don't have infinite time skips. So keep all of that in mind. I do wish you the best, and I hope that you can get your hands on that new heroic.